16, for whom I was among. Now I asked my question, what happens now to the others? Of course, they will be taken into the other courses and so on. But then the interest is interest. Besides those who qualified to join Makerere University, there are also those who did not attain the mark to join Makerere University, but qualified to join a tertiary institution, and there were also many. So I thought there was a gap there that would fill, and it drove us into it. The third factor was when I had joined, during my graduation, the president asked us to join the army. But me and my colleagues said, no, we can't join the army because at that time the war in the north was still raging. So we knew, we had been told if you join the army, of course we'd join as second lieutenants. Upon that training, the first deeper training would be going to the battlefield as commanders, and we thought we were too young to go and die. So we said, no, we shall fight a war with a pen. And we opted to remain journalists. We joined the means of information. We were fortunate at the time. We were recruited as officers, and we began our journalism work, and we did our work quite well. While we were there as officers, the president again makes a statement when he was addressing journalists at State House. I think there were some reports that had irritated him. So he said, journalism in this country is not surprised. It's made of fishermen and fishmongers. So I said, how can the president say this? We are journalists, but I don't even know how to fish. I've never been a fishmonger. But I carried out research, and I found out that the president had a point. He reflected the practitioners of journalism at that time, a period from 72, when Amin took over, up to late 80s, when actually 86, around there, when Museveni came in and took over. There were no professional journalists. There were very few. And the ones who were practicing then were people who just found themselves there by default, but without any training. So his statement was premised on the fact that when the economy collapsed during the time of Amin, smuggling became a common phenomenon, and it was taking place largely on Lake Victoria. They would smuggle goods from Kenya into Uganda. That was called Magendo at that time. But then the Magendo people who were using boats were constantly having running battles with the Marines. So in those running battles, there would be so many people who would die, some would drown, and so on. And that was the news. Who would bring that news to the land? It would be the fishermen. And who would now take that news into the inner land? It would be the fishmongers who would share these stories and so on. And at that time, there were two local newspapers. That was Muno, which was a Luganda newspaper, and Ngabo. Now, these stories would be reported in these local papers of what has happened on Lake Victoria and so on. And it became hot news. So every other time, there was interest to know what has happened on Lake Victoria again. And it became the norm. News, journalism, and so on was about news from Lake Victoria. So the veteran who told me the story made me understand that, oh, the president had a point. And to him at that time, he had forgotten that they had introduced mass communication in Makerere University in 1988. And the first batch of graduates had already come out and we were practicing. And most of them were actually with the Monitor newspaper and New Vision. And I came in, I was about the fifth batch. So I was already in the field practicing as well. So it motivated me to get out and disapprove the president. And not disapprove him in a sense, but answer his concern. And what was my point? Wanted to increase the number of journalists who have gone through basic training at a diploma level. So we started journalism training at a certificate, then we went to advanced certificate, then eventually went to a diploma. and we registered an institution. And here we are today as UMCAT School of Journalism. That is the history.
Yeah. Okay. That is a very long history. It's a very long history, but very interesting and inspiring to me as well, as a young journalist. But yes, now there are so many professions, so many careers out there, including teaching, medicine, and so much more. So do you think journalism is as important as these careers, and basing on choice, impact to the communities, and of course employment opportunities?
Journalism is at the center of all this.
Okay.
Because journalism is about communication, but it gets skewed into communicating news. That's why it's called journalism. Whether you are in medicine, whether you are in agriculture, or whether you are in engineering, whichever form of engineering, you need communication. You need to be able to pass a message out about your profession, about what you do, and so on. And two, you need the community. The community needs to know you. And how does the community know about you and what you do? It is through communication. So journalism plays this role. It's actually a bridge between society and all the various disciplines that are there. That's why it's now called a profession, because society has mandated that specific sector of communication, journalism, to be the source of news for society, to inform society, to educate society, entertain society, and do all that you can relate with communication. So it is very, very important. You can't do without it. And whoever is saying that journalism is irrelevant in this country is deceiving himself or herself.
All right. Now, given the fact that UMCAT as an institute started in 1996, what makes it different, unique, what gives it that spark that is different from other institutes that offer journalism and mass communication?
We are not theorists, we are practical. We want to answer the needs. And we stress that point, that when our students come here, we also stress them in our own way. And why are we stressing them? We are stressing them so that they get to understand the dynamics of our society. They get to understand the workings of our society. Which you can argue with them here, they quarrel with us here, and so on. We say, but do it, do it, do it. By the time they go out, they actually understand that, hey, what was happening at school is what is happening here. So our mode of training is not just spoon feeding. It is making the student touch it, feel it, experience it, and develop his own thinking about it and own it. That's what makes us a difference, different from the other institutions. Of course, we have our unique understanding of what journalism is. Many institutions are teaching radio production, they are teaching TV production, but they are not teaching journalism.
Okay.
Because maybe they don't understand it. With us, we have understood what journalism is.
All right.
And that is our secret. It's only our students who will know it, and you will see it when they are practicing. That's why you find our student may come. Sometimes you begin wondering, well, this student cannot switch this camera on that. But when you bring him into journalism, he does it. Okay. And then just the other one becomes the aid.
Okay. Now, many institutions of higher learning in Uganda are affiliated to other academic institutes and like universities and colleges. So, do you have a working relationship with any of these?
Oh, yes, yes. We're actually beginning university, a degree awarding likely this year. We have already signed an MOU with Bugema University to start up. So we have a UMCAT University project already rolling, and admissions have started. So we are there.
All right, so the Media Council for Journalism came up with more like a law, they call it a law, like everybody who is to practice journalism has to have papers or qualifications for this particular role. So we have seen so many people in the media industry that don't have these qualifications. What is your take on that?
Let them come to UMCAT and study and get a qualification.
Okay.
Because you only become a professional when you have gotten that qualification, when you have studied it and gotten that certification. Many of our people are practicing journalism, but they're not professional journalists. Because you can be a journalist by practice, not by training. You get it? And many of our people are out there calling themselves journalists, but they're not professional journalists. So they should avoid using the word professional until you have come to school, studied it, gotten the qualification, and UCU is right. You cannot claim to be a professional when you have not trained, because professionalism, professional training takes you around 360 degrees. You understand the issues of responsibility, you understand the issues of accountability, you understand the ethical issues surrounding it. So you communicate with responsibility. And you play your role with accountability. Because if you have found yourself in the sector of journalism, you say, I'm a journalist, then you must know you are accountable for whatever you do not do as a journalist and for whatever you do as a journalist. You are responsible for having it done right. And the ethics is paramount here. So you cannot understand these things except you go to school and interact with an instructor in class.
Now, lastly, how would you feel about the regulation of social media and its effects on journalism?
Well, that is the biggest challenge we have now. Because social media has come and has distorted things. And it has actually made communication very easy, and all sorts of communication. Hitting on your phone everywhere, anyhow, unprocessed. So it's a big challenge to journalism. And with us, we are about news. The others are just dropping everything. And social media has come to stay. We can't do without it. So we just have now to style up and absorb it, discipline it quickly so that we are able to effectively utilize it to achieve our objective of correctly informing people, keeping people alert about even the effects, the negative effects of social media and so on. So there is a lot of work to be done. We agree it is a challenge, but we also must accept it is a challenge that we must face as a profession.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Guel. It was nice having you on the show.
Thank you. Looking forward to watching ourselves on UBC.
Okay, you will be watching yourself. Okay. Well, that is what Mr. Oguel Charles has had to tell us. And like he has said, there is so much that goes on in this institute. And since he said they offer something very unique and different, and they have a particular secret they have here as an institute, of course, UMCAT, we are going to go and explore the heights of UMCAT and see what makes them different and unique from other institutions. Stay tuned. This is UBC TV. This is the core of television production. Now, do you want to find out how the final products we watch at home are being made? Do you want to find out how these media personalities are being trained? Well, are you curious? Well, yes, I am curious as well. Let's get into this room and see exactly what happens. Come with me. Now, the purpose of journalism is to inform people. And of course, when we speak about informing people, this helps people, of course, make possible decisions in their lives. And of course, the communities, societies, and also know about their government. Now, this may look like a transmitting studio, but no, this is a production studio. And just like a kitchen, this is where the food is cooked. Okay, and being a production studio, this is where all the magic takes place. And speaking of magic, I mean videography, editing, and so much more. And we are speaking about the making of a journalist. Now, this is the place where we get to see journalists being made. Okay, where we get to see the anchors, where we get to see the reporters, where we get to see the editors, and so much more. And as I came into the studio here, there was a lecturer that was teaching the students a lot about videography, and he is joining me on the show right now to give us more information about what takes place in this particular production studio. Welcome, Mr. Stephen.
Thank you.
It's very good to have you on the show today. So as I moved into the studio, I realized that you were training the students. So I would like you to tell us more on what you were training them about.
Well, thank you very much. What happens here, after taking students through theories, we have to take them through practicals. And so this is a place, like you've mentioned, with a kitchen, where we now really prepare them fully so that now we can be able to deliver them when they're well prepared, when they're fully equipped. So what happens here is that we take them through the practical of telling the story on air, where like news reading, maybe programming, any program, maybe it may be a talk show. This is where we show them the tricks of how do you appear on air, how do you express yourself. This is where we tune their eyes to look at the viewer. In this place, we train them to surrender their shivering, okay? To tell the person looking at them the real story, because now they have the information. And so what happens here, we always bring them to practice when time comes. After they've gone through theories, it's a practical time, and we connect our cameras. It's a production studio, so we take the screen to the classroom so that the other students can look at them and judge how their friend or colleague is performing. They can be able to tell that, oh, you were shivering, maybe you are panicking, maybe you are not audible enough, okay?
Does that mean that these students are given a chance to criticize their fellow students?
Obviously.
Okay.
Yes, because in that way, then they are encouraged to build up themselves. Then they say, okay, next time I'll be able to change, okay? This is where now they can really stand up to be firm and say, now I can face the public.
Which particular course is this one?
This is what we do in here. We take them after, not only anchoring and voicing also that, but we also teach them video editing.
Okay. So videography, editing, and all that they do in here.
Videography.
Yeah.
There is videography in theory, okay? Then there is videography in practice.
What course does it fall into?
The video production.
Oh, okay.
Yes, video production, where you must know all the tricks that involve that are involved in video production. Okay, so we take them through all of that, and they must be equipped all the skills, the whole skill.
Okay, and also training students could be a bit tough, sometimes, and challenging. And as a lecturer, I'm very sure the times you get to see the different weaknesses that the students have and where they need to improve. So what is the most challenging weaknesses that the students have here, and how can that be beaten?
Well, the most challenging weakness may be if they do not participate in the practicing, and if they don't read. You find it challenging because we encourage them to participate. In fact, some of them, I tell them that when a chance comes to you, that who can present this for us, always stand up to say, let it be me. That way you will become a good reporter. Okay? That's what I encourage them. But you find some of them, they shy away. Oh, I cannot manage that one. I can't appear on air. Maybe I prefer radio, because nobody is seeing me. Then I tell them, no, this world is open. You'll follow anywhere. but we want to equip you so that you fit in all those positions. Yes.
And how often do you have these practicals?
We follow the timetable. Sometimes some of them come when they want to, they feel they want to try, even before the time. And we encourage them, we show them a bit of the lines. We say, okay, what happens here? You do this and that, but when you come to that, please, you come. Sometimes we say, when you find the place is free and you want to try out, please come. And we are here, the door is always open for them. They come in and say, I want to voice. I want to try reading news. I want to try anchoring and so on. I want to try the talk show, you know, maybe a play. We stage for them. We create a stage for them and they play. Okay. Yes, they perform. And the other thing maybe I haven't told you yet is that this place is a one studio, but with a number of studios. There are about 7 studios. Okay? There is one for kids, there is one for sports, there is one for politics and the others, talk shows, you know. And all those, there's one for news, even maybe news for UMCAT, for example, then it may be news for another studio elsewhere. We set it in here. And all, we encourage them to perform with them.
Okay, and speaking about news, and I remember you talking about the students being given a chance to criticize their fellow students when they watch their work at the end of the day. So do you have like weekly news that you do as UMOCAT where the students have a chance to go to the field, do some reporting, and of course come back and bring back that work, and maybe at the end of the day it airs on the UMCAT TV?
Not UMCAT TV yet.
Okay.
Yes. Excuse me. Maybe radio. But here what we do, we encourage them to make those stories. And then they are edited and put together. Then they can be shown. But for a student to do that, it means he has gone through the whole thing, because even on editing, you'll have to direct to show them, okay, here you are right, here you are wrong. Excuse me. So they are encouraged to go out and create stories and get stories, then they can be edited, especially on editing now. Because after they've learned the trick, that's when they can go out and collect stories. Then we give them a chance to edit them. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Stephen, thank you very much. And thank you for having you on the show. Okay, so yes, you may be asking yourself what happens in a production studio and asking yourself how a production studio is set up. Well, this is how a production studio is set up. And like we said before, this is the kitchen where we get to cook all the news that you watch on TV. So yes, journalism, just like any other course, has a lot of challenges and hardships, but then we are speaking about how we get to make journalists, professional journalists. Now, they say action speaks louder than words, and earlier on, Mr. Stephen talked about training the students hands-on. And we saw how a production studio looks like, what they do in a production studio in terms of videography, editing, anchoring, and so much more. And like we said, in the kitchen we get to cook food, but after that food is cooked, what does it taste like? And that is the same thing with the production studio. After the news has been cooked, how does it taste like after that? Well, here is Kevin with the UMCAT News.
Yes, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for keeping it UMCAT Television. I am Kevin Kazuma, bringing you the news this afternoon. But first, let's look at the headlines. Ministers spotted for taking bribes. Mulago Acting Executive Director discards claims on social media of drug theft. And the news in details. After a span of claims on social media indicating that there was theft of drugs in Mulago Hospital, the Mulago Executive Director, Rosemary Byanyima, came out to refute the claims of the theft of drugs in the hospital. Now we connect to our reporter Davis Cheswa to give us the news in detail.
In an institution, we need and require different personalities for the smooth running of an institution. And right now, joining me on the show is Tembo Johnson, who is the academic registrar, and he is going to take us through the curriculum. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, as said, my name is Tembo Johnson, and I am the Deputy Academic Registrar, UMCAT School of Journalism and Mass Communication. Our journey close to 25 years back, more than 25 years back, has been one that somebody can easily describe as a journey based on principles. Transforming the media sector has not been a very easy journey, but we want to thank the Almighty that the media space has moved this far. We run an academic curriculum that is approved by National Council for Higher Education and the one for NCDC. So initially we mainly have our major two programs. That is the National Certificate in Journalism, which runs basically for 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, a student is capable to leave UMCAT having studied a minimum of 24 course units. So you find that there is much to do with passion in the media industry, but still there are other course units you need to be in position to become the person the society will yearn for. You very well know that the world calls journalists the fourth estate. The reason we are called the fourth estate is that we are supposed to be we are the people supposed to keep government and other stakeholders accountable to the public. Therefore, if you're having a journalist who is not informed, this role may not be done appropriately. That's why we have that versatile curriculum that gives a student, be it certificate or diploma level, capacity to analyze things and be in position to practice journalism professionally. You may come to UMCAT wanting to be a camera operator, but that can't stop us from giving you other skills, important skills, like news writing and reporting, multimedia production, photojournalism, ethics in journalism, communication skills, art of public speaking, creative writing. We give you all this content because we know, well, right now you feel all you need is camera operations, but what will happen in the future? So you need to be skilled with the different related courses that can position you for better and bigger opportunities. So our curriculum right now that we are running is by NCDC. And
Speaking of NCDC,
NCDC is the National Curriculum Development Center, okay, the government arm. So as a professional and a law-abiding institution, we have to follow the agenda of the government. And this is latest, the agenda of the government is skilling Uganda. So we much have the course units that impart skills to the student, so that even if you're not employed by any TV or newspaper platform, as soon as you graduate, you're capable to utilize your skills into profit-making other ventures that can come out of the media production. Because right now, that new curriculum has course units like digital marketing, has multimedia production, has graphics designing, has photography, and has cartoon and animation, has disc jockeying. Because the media has grown, and this is why we position our students for such opportunities so that they are capable of competing with others in the market outside there.
Now, from the television production studio, we are here at the radio production studio, where, of course, more magic takes place. We are still at UMCAT, and in the radio studio, you may be asking what takes place. Now, this is a transmission studio where we get to listen to our favorite presenters, and they get to speak to us through this transmission studio, where they get to inform us, educate us, entertain us. And here with me is Mr. Okello, who is going to take us through a lot that takes place in this transmission studio. Welcome, Mr. Okello.
Thank you very much, madam.
Yes, tell us what happens in this magical room.
As you say that this is a magical room, seriously, it's a magical room.
Okay.
This is where the live broadcast takes place from. any signal that goes out from here, it comes from this place. Okay. Then probably shows presenters that enter in here presenting whatever that they present goes out here.
Okay. Do you mind explaining to us how the different equipments here work and what their roles are?
It's okay.
Okay.
Now if I want to start, this is our screen, but it's an unembedded screen for now. But later on we used to have a CPU and a monitor. But we decided to improve on our probably technology in the studio. So it's an embedded machine and it's written Apple. So everything it's just accompanying it. So it's just acting as one machine. So we call it, this is a computer. Yeah. So the work of the computer is just only to guide us, to display what is. Actually, it's like a screen that if you want to view what to use, it's the main purpose of this computer here. The software we use on radio, it's the one that always probably guides us.
All right.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the equipment?
When you come to this board, now this board has so many names. The first name you can call it a console, on air console. Then another one you can also call it a mixer, but you add the word radio mixer because there are mixers that probably don't work in radio. Okay. Then you can also call it a mixing board. Now this mixing board, it helps us in several ways. One is to amplify whatever we speak out right now, whatever actually I'm speaking right now. When I speak onto this mic, the sound that will come out of my lips into this mic, it's very, very tiny. So what it does, the mic helps me to speak, then it helps me to amplify what I speak. Though there are also amplifiers, other amplifiers, but the main purpose is to amplify. There are more other amplifiers whereby you can find them, maybe they're being set somewhere to help us also to amplify more sounds in the studio. But it helps us to amplify. Then also it helps us also to root sound. When I talk about routing is to divide where sound is supposed to be taken. For example, this mic here. So when I speak onto this mic, there is a line that I make sure that this microphone is plugged in. I don't just come and just say plug it here, put it there. Okay? Because it's the one which is going to control my sound. So another thing is it's the same board that will help us to direct us where the output of my voice is coming out from. Okay? So it has also a part. So you don't just come and connect whatever you want to connect. Okay? So it helps us to read sound, it helps us to amplify, then it helps us to mix sound. Sound is anything which is audio. It could be music, it could be my voice, it could be sound of the fan, it could be voices. Okay, that's the main purpose of the mixer. Now when you come to this boy here, we call him a mic. Now this mic.
Why not girl?
Why not a girl? I call him probably when God first made actually God first made a man before a girl.
Okay.
So we take it by that way. That this is a boy. So that I even see in churches, they talk about the pastors when they're explaining. They bring an example as a man.
Okay, tell us about that boy.
Yeah, so this boy helps us probably to send signals. Whatever, if I spoke on this mic and it is off, probably nothing would go out. And if I spoke or if I speak looking away from it, probably people will not be able to listen to me because there's nothing I'm communicating. Okay? So this boy or that boy or those other boys are the ones that help us to send signals. So when I say this mic, I'm speaking onto this mic. So I'll be speaking onto one person. I'll be speaking with one person outside. So it means the transmission will be me and the person outside I'm speaking to. So if I fail to maintain him with my lips, probably people will go off topic, or people will not listen to me very well. They will start complaining that maybe the man either is fearing the mic or his sound is low and so on. So we make sure that this boy is well maintained.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now somebody entering this studio for the first time may ask or wonder what this is on the wall. So why do you have this set up on the wall in this transmission studio?
I love your questions. Now, this one here, in other studios, you may not find the same things. Okay? You may find either carpets. You may either find maybe other materials. You may find mirrors. I give an example of NTV. I think NTV are not use this for proofing their studios. They are using mirrors. So it's the same, but as long as you use the word acoustic material. So this acoustic that we have here, for now, this is for HomeCat, as we are the studio. We have this acoustic. So the use of these acoustics is to prevent sound which is in here to go out, and the sound which is outside to come in here, because distraction is what a human being doesn't want in his life. So
Okay.
it prevents, just simply to prevent sound that's in here to go outside, and it also prevents sound which is outside to come in here.
Okay.
That's the main purpose of this material you are seeing in here.
Okay. So as
Yeah.
we summarize our interview,
Yes.
what kind of shows do you do here exactly?
Oh wow, we have so many shows, but I think I'm going to mention a few.
Okay.
One, we have what we call extra fun.
Ooh.
Extra fun.
Okay.
Yeah, just the way you listen to it, extra, then
What
fun.
is the show about?
This show is all about playing music, enjoying life. No, something like that.
Lugambo.
Lugambo.
Okay.
So we call it, I think,
Because it's
we take-
extra fun.
it's just extra. Actually,
Okay.
even one time, probably if you get time, you come engage with us in the show.
Okay.
You
I
find
will.
fun.
What is the next show?
The next one is probably, we call it the Pearl.
Oh, okay.
The Pearl.
What is this one about?
Pearl is all about politics, knowing around what's happening around our areas and so on. Then we have also another one. I think my student has been doing it from here. It's called Bwino Mugwanga.
What does that mean?
Bwino Mugwanga, I think it's it's a word from, it's a Ugandan kind of thing. Yeah?
Okay.
Bwino Mugwanga, it also analyzes about things of politics and so on, current affairs. That
Okay,
is-
besides the shows that you do here,
Mm.
what is the feedback from your listeners?
Probably the listeners, probably other shows, depends on my presenters though.
Okay.
Yeah, presenters, depends on the presenters. The other presenters that probably present, and our software here indicates, gives us probably percentage that my show has been listened to, and the number of people who are listening to this show maybe is 100. Okay.
Okay.
We find that maybe Bino Mugwanga, when it's presenting in here, is finding some number of couple of people, like
Okay.
300 people. So just generally depending on the presenter and also what the presenter delivers.
Okay.
It's what matters. It's actually what matters most here. So
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Kello.
thank you very much.
Okay. Well, yes, sometimes we listen to people on radio, we watch them on TV, and we probably want to be like them, and we are inspired by them. But then there is a whole process to get there. the making of a professional journalist. Now here in this transmission studio is where we get to learn how to be a radio presenter, how to use the equipment in here, the computers, the softwares, and so much more. And it is the same thing with the production studio. We learn how to cook news, we learn how to cook programs and different things. Well, you are still watching the Education Forum here on UBC TV. Stay tuned. Now, just like any other institution, every institution needs different personalities for the smooth running. Of course, we have different people doing different things, and to make an institution a successful one, we have different personalities doing different things. Now, joining me on the show right now is Joseph Elunya, who is going to tell us more about what takes place in this institution, and he appears to be the principal of UMCAT. Welcome, Mr. Joseph.
Thank you very much, and thanks for coming around, and thanks for hosting us in your show.
Well, we are glad to have you on the show. Now, Mr. Joseph, what does one require to join this institution?
What one requires to join this institution, we go by the standards set by the National Council. So for you to join here for a diploma in journalism and mass communication, you need to have 2 principal passes at A level. If you're joining us for a certificate, you must have at least 6 passes and a credit in English. And if you're to join us for a degree program, I hope you are aware we now offer degrees. Okay. So for the degree programs, we still the requirement is the same, 2 principal passes at A level. Yeah. That makes you join us.
Now, is journalism a calling or that requires special skills for somebody to join into, or is it just an open book for anyone?
Journalism is not an open book for anyone. It is one, you need to be qualified for it. You need to know what, like any other trade. If you're to be a lawyer, you must be knowing what law is all about. So if you're to be a journalist, you must also be knowing what journalism is all about. And when you talk about, is it a calling? Yes, because you need to have that drive. You need to have that backed by your professional trainings, and then you need to have that special drive that makes you must have a mission, something that drives you. That's when you can make it in journalism, alongside your qualification. So the qualification is very much needed. It's not an open ground for everybody, no. It is for those who have undergone trainings. So it's not an open ground for every Tom around the street.
Okay. Now, being a media institution, I'm very sure that there are a lot of practices and trainings that you do here as an institution. So take us through those various trainings that you have as an institution that make these journalists better practicing journalists.
Actually, what makes us better, you must also know, the first thing is consistency. Since 1996, we've been there and we've led the ground. So the kind of training we do is hands-on. When we talk about hands-on, we expose journalists to the real world situation when they're here. We mix both practicum and then theory. We blend theory and practical. But what UMCAT has been known over the years is the practical bit of it. That's what makes us different from any other institution. For us, we focus much on training a student to be using and exposing them to the equipment that are already in the field. And we expose them to this equipment while here. We train them into real world situation, that by the time they leave here, they're already good to go. That's what sets us apart. We focus much on the practicals, though we blend it with the theories. But our main focus is on practicals, and that's what we've been known about. When you talk about UMCAT, they know that's a finished product. It comes out when it's already ready for the market. That's where we beat any other institution doing training in that field.
Okay, we have seen many journalists that have failed to meet the professional journalism ethics. We have seen them extort news, we have seen them post out there inaccurate news or stories. So what are some of the journalism ethics and codes that a professional journalist is supposed to have?
First, you need to know that journalism exists to serve society. So if you're a journalist, by worth your name, you must live by the ethical codes. You must live by the accepted minimum maxims that governs the profession. So do you live up to the standards of a journalist? So why we see all these things happening? There are very many people who have just gotten into journalism, but they're not journalists. They have not had any formal training. But a journalist who has had formal training knows that he must abide by the ethics of journalism. So what sets apart a trained journalist and that one who just picked a pen and started writing, which unfortunately are very many in Uganda. And I would love to take this opportunity to actually call upon them to come. For us, we train them to be better journalists who will live by the standard required of them. Why they fail to do that is because many of them actually have never gone through any formal training. They only know, maybe they have gone to someone who has told them journalism, writing a story is about 5 W's and a H. But if you've gone to a journalism school, you know that journalism goes beyond the 5 W's and a H. The other things you must be able to answer. And as you answer the so what and the rest, you must abide by the ethical codes of conduct required of you as a journalist, of which ethical codes of conduct is governed by a need for professionalism. At the back of your mind as a journalist, are you acting professionally? So you need to be guided by the professional codes of ethics, the minimum maxims accepted in journalism, ethical maxims.
Okay, so we have so many journalists that are blossoming in the journalism industry and different media houses, of course, and many of them are, of course, sticking to some of the skills that were being instilled in them. So would you identify some of those journalists in these different media houses that have gone through UMCAT as an institution?
Those we are proud of, one of them is Abbas, who started a media challenge initiative. It's one of now the leading, among the leading non-profits training in the field of journalism. It's a product of UMCAT School of Journalism, and we are very much proud of. Proud of him because of the impact he has created in the world using the skills and the knowledge attained from here. There are very many of them. One of them works with you, Charles Odongtho, hosts a show with you. He's a product of here, and we are very, very much proud of him. He has advanced the cause. Having studied from here, he has advanced that cause and is now serving the world. There are so many others I would talk of. There are quite a number of them. There is Sanyu Robina. Actually, when you talk about UMCAT and the media, in every media house you go to in Uganda, we are there. We actually we produce about 70% of the workforce in media houses in Uganda.
Okay.
So whereas I'm mentioning these big ones, but there are those, the cameramen, the news reporters, most of them, about 70% come through here. Actually, there is a thinking that if you have not gone through UMCAT, you cannot do journalism well. So we are real proud in that area.
All right. So Joseph, most cases people ask if journalism is complicated. How would you describe journalism?
Journalism being complicated? Absolutely no. When you know what to do, it is not complicated. If you don't know what to do, then it becomes much more complicated. But if you know what is supposed to be done, remember at the back of your mind, journalism exists to serve society. And onto society, we serve society. We act as watchdogs. So I don't think it is that complicated, but people make it complicated when they get involved in those unethical practices. And so journalism isn't complicated. It is like any other profession with any other, like any other profession, has also risks associated too. But those risks, the good in journalism outweighs those risks. Because when you look at in journalism, we basically, even where there are those risks, we go extra miles to bring those stories you see on television that people enjoy, but we go extra miles. But that I wouldn't love to say that it is complicated. It's like any other job. It is like you put it in your first question with me, is it a calling? And if it's a calling, you go extra miles to fulfill that calling. So it's not that complicated though.
Right. So many students go for internship in different media houses. And in most cases, they don't really have the practical skills. They mainly have the theory, but don't have the practical skills. How can this be changed in an institution?
What needs to be changed, and that is our focus. For us, we want to expose them to these to the equipments. We want to expose them. If it's editing suit, we must give them something similar to what is in the field. Unlike unlike us, you may find in other places people do not have equipment, but they're training journalism. So they concentrate on theories. But here in UMUCAT, we blend theories and practicals, so that when they go to the field, they already have a taste of, they already know, it doesn't come as a surprise when they see things they'll meet in the field. So we try as much as possible. We actually deploy them even when they're here. We send them every week to go to the field, to gather, to collect news. Like a real world, we have specialized reporting and stuff like that, that we hope will be able to train these journalists that by the time they go to the field, they really have something. They are not green when they go to the field. Most of our products, we try as much as possible that by the time they go to the field, they're almost, they feel the part of internship, of course, is also very, very useful, because internship now really exposes them into a real work situation. So internship is very, very vital. But by the time they go there, they should go there when they have some skills with them. And we try as much as possible to give them the basic skills. Then when they go for internship, they're basically improving. They're putting them, internship puts them into a real work situation.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Joseph.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Well, as we get to watch the show and keep watching the show, we'll get to realize that journalism is not only about what we do in front of the cameras, what we do behind the cameras, the makeup, the looks, and everything that we see here. But journalism, just like any other career, needs and requires the confidence, the love, the passion, the interest, and so much more. Now, as you get to watch the show, you're going to get to realize that there is so much going on in this particular institute, UMUCAT. Now, stay tuned. This is UBC TV, and you are watching the Education Forum.
Hi, my name is Whitney Flavia Casalire, a student at UMCAT School of Journalism and Mass Communication, pursuing a diploma in journalism and mass communication. I'm in my final semester. Actually, these are one of my last days at UMCAT. The reason as to why I chose journalism, I was inspired by a lot of journalists out there who are on radios, TVs, such as Solomon Seranja, who was doing investigative journalism, doing a lot of stuff, investigating different stories in the society. Such things inspired me into doing the journalism course. Here I am in my last semester, my last days, and as I leave UMCAT, I admit that I have learned a lot of things from UMCAT School of Journalism and Mass Communication.
Well, my name is David Livingston Esseru. I am a student at UMCAT, actually completing. I'm in my last semester. Actually just had the last paper, the second last paper today, and I am feeling prepared and ready to go to the field. Because as I speak now, I know a lot of stuff that I've learned from here, from UMCAT. It has really been a very good experience. UMCAT has been like home. When you are here, you feel like you're at home. So I have learned a lot of things, including camera work. I can do news anchoring, news reporting, And I actually don't know where I specialize in at the moment. But when I go to the field, I will specialize in something, I'm sure. And I started with a certificate at UMCAT. I did my certificate in 2014 and I got done with it. I came back for the diploma. The same school received me. And what I have learned is really a great experience and great knowledge that I can use outside there in the field when I'm out of UMCAT. Maybe one thing that I should talk about UMCAT is when you're at UMCAT, you get to explore a lot of skills. For example, multimedia production. We know animation and cartoon production. We know that. We know how to design graphical work. We also know how to record and edit videos. All those skills were taught to us as students, and I am a great beneficiary from that.
This weekend on UBC.
A mixed vegetable curry that packs a flavor punch is loaded with veggies and mainly spices that you might have in your kitchen.